All right, everybody. Welcome to today's fireside chat. We've got a very special guest, Heidi Tucker, the VP of Global Alliances with InsideView. We want to welcome you today. Hi, Heidi.
Hi, John. Thanks so much. Really happy to be able to spend a little time together and share a little bit about InsideView.
Absolutely. Let's jump right in. Let's ask the first question. Tell us a little bit about your company's background, how long you've been in business, and just some company history.
Sure. We started in 2005. We looked at the sea of business data providers that were available at the time, and we thought we could actually create a niche by providing more real-time data, especially real-time data about companies and their key executives, and then embedding it within CRM. And a lot of those things hadn't been done at the time. Business data had been around for 150 years, but we really saw an opportunity to make it more relevant, make it more real time by using sophisticated, web-based data gathering techniques. And so that was our origin. We were the first to embed social content and company information into CRM. And then over the years, we've continued to expand the data that we offer and then integrate with other things like marketing automation and ABM and things like that.
Yeah, I've definitely seen you guys evolve over the years. I've seen you at trade shows many years past, and the company's, evolved along the way. But what is your ideal customer profile? Can you tell us a little bit about who you guys target?
Yeah, we target, well, first of all, anybody who's in B2B, because we are purely a B2B data set. Secondly, we really look for companies that have a desire to transform, actually that's, maybe too, not really the right word, but it's, companies that are looking to find a more modern way to sell or a more modern way to go to market. So they're looking for signals of key opportunities, or they're looking to isolate very quickly all the key decision makers or the buying committee within an organization so they could launch an ABM campaign. So those tend to be companies that are in progressive industries, could be high tech, it could be transportation, logistics, could be business services is a big space for us. And then also, I don't want to be remiss in saying we power a lot of other applications too. So we have a full API platform that can power cybersecurity applications, supply chain, lots of other things as well.
That's pretty amazing. It's kind of a redundant question, but what are the typical problems you help customers solve? And again, I know you guys are very broad, so different solutions that can go a lot of ways, but.
Yeah, I would say just to give you an umbrella view of the problems we solve, they're organized largely around sales challenges, data hygiene challenges, and then marketing and go-to-market challenges. So as I mentioned earlier, we started off as a sales intelligence application running inside of CRM. So we would help individual salespeople more quickly do their account planning or their account research or their call prep, help them find the right prospects to go after, give them the name and the email address and the title. And then we evolved that. Our next group of problems we attacked was in the marketing space, because it turns out marketers need a lot of the same information as salespeople. They just need it at scale. So helping marketers identify the ICP that they're going after and helping them clean, all of their new leads that are coming in automatically, and then helping them identify all of the lookalike prospects that look just like their best customers. And then,
sorry, go for it.
I was going to say, and then the third one, we've just pivoted lately, especially in the middle of this pandemic, more to data hygiene solutions, purely because all of us have to do more with less. And we're hearing that every day from our customers. And in order to do more with less, you just have to get more efficient. You can't hire 5 more salespeople, so you better make the ones you have more productive. And so that means getting your data clean, and you can't overlook having stale contacts or outdated industry classifications or that kind of thing.
Yeah, we've followed a similar journey of, either getting a hold of sales or marketing first, and then, crossing over departments and trying to align them. So I'm sure you have some great stories about sales and marketing alignment along that journey. But what verticals do you guys focus on? Like, is there a key vertical? A lot of the customers I've been interviewing are focused on tech, but is that a key vertical for you, or what would you say are the top places, types of businesses that you like to target?
Yeah, I mean, I think tech was where we started because we're a San Francisco-based company, and we were, initially one of the first ISVs within, or the solution providers within the Salesforce ecosystem. And so there were a lot of tech companies that were making early decisions to do digital transformation or sales transformation. But over the years, over the last 10 years, we've really branched out. And I would say some of our bigger verticals are in financial services is a big vertical. Business services, so that would take into consideration, engineering and consultants and all kinds of more service-oriented companies. We do a lot of business in transportation and logistics, and I'd say where we're less focused is in pharma and biotech, only because we have a very broad data set of B2B companies, but we're not as focused in healthcare as maybe some other solution providers.
Yeah, it's a very broad niche that can require 100% of your time to be good at. I second that. How about geographic locations? And this is a kind of a double question in terms of where you target. Are you targeting companies that are primarily themselves in the United States? Do you have a global customer base? And then do you also have data that covers both North America and then globally?
Yes, we're a global data set. We have about 17 million companies in our database around the world. It's every public company, which is about 50,000. And then all of the rest of the millions are private companies. And we have about 50 million contacts or decision maker contacts in our database. And we're on a path to get to 100 million contacts by the end of this year, while at the same time maintaining our data quality and data accuracy. And you can imagine, in the middle of a pandemic with everybody changing jobs, that's a very difficult thing to do. And the only reason that we're really confident in our ability to do it better, let's just say better than everybody else, never 100%, is because we use very sophisticated AI-based technology to aggregate and triangulate, which means try to find the same data in multiple places, and then validate things like email addresses through third-party email validation. But the only way you can achieve accuracy at scale is to have multiple sources of data, triangulate it, and then validate it. But to get back to your original question about geography, about half of our database is in North America, and about the other half is spread in other regions of the world. Because we're looking to triangulate data off of multiple sources, we tend to have more data in places where companies are more digitally visible. So we would have more information about tech companies or about financial services companies than we might about a dry cleaner, for example. And in markets where there is more data available, we can validate the data more easily. So in markets like China, even in some regions of South America, it's a little bit harder to obtain data to validate. So we tend to be more strong in North America and in Western Europe, and English-speaking companies around the world, countries around the world.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. I have a specific question about languages. What if it's a digital culture, but the language is not an English-speaking character? Can you also find and verify data places where other languages are used as the primary primary language for writing?
Yeah, so it depends what data you're talking about. We do have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of companies in markets where English is not the first language. But news and the fact that we categorize news based on natural language processing to associate mergers and acquisitions or leadership change or funding events or bankruptcies, that type of categorized news in our world only works with the natural language processing of English content. So we may have companies listed in China. We have lots of them. In fact, we work with some of the larger supply chain companies, but not companies, but applications. But we're only able to present the signals or the real-time news on English content.
Very nice. You know, when I think of an enrichment provider, I don't always think of verification, but you've been talking a lot about verification. So do you do your own verification for emails, phone numbers, and addresses?
We do a lot of verification on our own, but we also use 2 third-party email validation providers. It's not our core competency, but our core competency is to obtain information from multiple sources. In fact, we buy our data from companies like CapIQ and Thomson Reuters and other major reputable companies. But then we also crawl the web looking at millions of websites every week, looking for things like a change in the leadership team that's posted, or maybe a news about a merger or upcoming merger that hasn't maybe been completed yet. So we're looking for a lot of information on the websites themselves. We're also culling information from government sites, from all kinds of different places, and bringing that all in together. So our core competency is to obtain all that information, triangulate it, because I guarantee if we've got 5 sources for one company, all 5 of them will have different information. And it's our job to figure out which is the best single source of truth. But then for email specifically, that's one thing we do outsource our email validation. We run through our entire database of emails for validation about every 2 weeks.
Very nice. It sounds like you can triangulate and see if a person is current with their business, because like this has always been a topic for me. I think like as a salesperson in SaaS, one of the best leads that you can ever find is one of your customers who went to a new company. But like this has been even kind of, it's been, I mean, it's extreme right now in the situation we're in. It's like, who knows, like 30% of your database might have just turned over. So do you have any sort of service where I could submit you a list of my contacts or leads or whatever and say, hey, are these people still with this company?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the answer is yes. We have a few different ways to solve that problem. So just logistically, we have a professional services team. So if you submitted a list to us, we would have our professional services team analyze the list and clean it up and send it back to you with whatever the current information is that we have about those contacts. We also have a product called Data Integrity that can run on your CRM and just identify on an ongoing basis when we have updated information about contacts or we know that they've moved to another company. And then we also have APIs that can prompt you proactively when data that you're tracking has changed. But how we know that information is that's really the secret sauce. because a lot of people use LinkedIn. We do, it's just a great standard of professional connections. But in a time like this, where a lot of people aren't at their company anymore, but they haven't updated their LinkedIn profile, or if you're an executive at a company, you probably don't really spend time even outside of a pandemic updating your LinkedIn profile. We have to figure out other ways. We don't scrape LinkedIn at all. So we have to find other ways to know that somebody is not at that company. And so we're monitoring companies that are announcing layoffs, and then we're looking at our database compared to what we're seeing in the news. And when we do identify that people have moved to the other company, then we can go ahead, and sometimes we know that they're just not there anymore, but they haven't landed someplace. So we show them in our database as a past employment at the previous company. And then as soon as we track them to where they currently are, then we will update their current employment. And we use a personal ID system. I was just going to say, so we track an employer ID for every person in our database and an executive ID. The executive ID is sort of like your social security number. It follows you everywhere you go from company to company. The employment ID is assigned to you when you're at a specific company.
That's super valuable. It's a rare combination of both enrichment as well as I call it like monitor or refresh, whatever you phrase it, but that's a super powerful feature. Now, question about the size of the database: how many business and person records are available in the database?
So today we have about 17 million companies. Globally, as I mentioned, about half those are in the US or in North America. And then we have about 50 million contacts in the database. And not all of them have email addresses. We're obviously trying to get as many email addresses as we can. But sometimes we might get the email address, we can't validate it, so then we're not populating it into the database. But we're about 60+% with email coverage as well. And then we, as I think I mentioned earlier, we're going to 100 million contacts by the end of 2020 with a commensurate level of email addresses. We have about 10 million direct dial phone numbers, and then we have about 100% coverage on corporate phone numbers.
Yeah, one of the things I think was rare about you guys is that you have pretty flexible matching logic as well for the customer. So some companies limit to specific field values as an input to get an output. And I was surprised to see that you guys can be pretty flexible with your matching logic, either through the API or obviously through the services. But can you tell us a little bit about what the minimum fields you need are to get an output from enrichment? Is it a combination of name and, give us that?
Well, so for a company, literally we just need the name of the company. It will produce a higher scoring match if we have more fields, such as the company and the country, or the company and the URL, or the company and the stock ticker. The more you can feed into it, the more of an accurate match you're likely to get. Because if you just give me Acme Printing, I mean, we have so many, Acme printings in our database that I don't really know exactly which one you're looking for. And I'll give you a really quick example on that. We had a customer come to us recently, and one of the records they had in this large data set was Fitbit, Ltd. In San Francisco, California, USA. Well, we know there is no Fitbit, Ltd. In the United States. Fitbit Ltd. Is actually the UK subsidiary of Fitbit. Fitbit, Inc. is located in San Francisco. It's the corporate headquarters of Fitbit. So when a customer gives us a name that is not congruous with the name or with the address, we have to be able to figure out, what are they really talking about? Do they really want the US company, or do they really want the UK company? And which has more weight in the algorithm. Is it the name of the company or the company plus the address? I mean, that's just one small example of the types of challenges that we have in matching. But clearly more than just URL. A lot of people don't have URL, so if you can only do a URL match, you're not going to match on nearly as many as we can if you use these other fields.
Yeah, I agree. And RingLead actually has a unique application that appends websites based on rules. It's a crawling technology that's, you know, it's accurate, and obviously handpicking is better, but you know, but that's so important. I mean, for everybody watching, to have flexibility in your matching, what that means is you're going to find less mismatches first, and second, more matches. The more flexibility you have within that logic, which it sounds like, you know, you guys really have a lot of flexibility, you'll get both scores on match rates, and then you'll find more matches in general because the tool will be looking at more attributes.
Right.
So go for it.
I was going to say, and on contacts, we need first name, last name, company, or first name, well, actually first name, last name, company, or email address. We will be able to match on either of those. And then return about 40 fields of information just from that. So we could return, you know, the company information, the job level, the job function, the industry classification, size of company. So one of the things we do a lot is just append web forms. A lot of companies just have InsideView Enrich running on their web form so that they only have to ask for 1 or 2 or 3 at the most fields of information. They can get a much higher completion rate because people don't really like to fill out much information manually, as you know. So the less you ask, the more likely they'll complete it, and then we can match it on our back end.
Yeah, so it sounds like not only are you flexible in your matching, but you guys also have an API just for about everything we've talked about today, which is, you know, very helpful with just being, again, flexible in terms of where you can pipe the data. You know, I see a lot of our audience is really using this data not just to personalize and segment, but and connect, but also to build out profiles. Like, what is our ideal customer profile? And I think that, you know, across all these different customers, different attributes, what I would call specialty attributes, become important in this exercise. So I want to ask you, what kind of specialty attributes do you have outside of just the traditional, like, size of business and, you know, vertical, i.e. like news, tech installs, financing, intent, budgets, etc. Can you give us some unique business attributes or person attributes that you know, that you guys serve?
Yeah, so I can answer that in 2 ways. One is with unique fields that we have on our record. So a company record, a complete company record at InsideView has about 40, or maybe it's 40 or 50 now, fields of information that we can deliver. And it would include all of the basic firmographics, you know, size and location and URL. But we also have SIC codes, NAICS codes, British NAICS codes, and we have our own industry classification that's built on a very modern way of looking at industries, because some of those government classifications are really old and it makes it hard to classify current companies into that old standard. So we have our own about 30 primary industries and about 300 sub-industries that look at things like, is Uber a tech company or is Uber a transportation company? Well, they're really both. And so, so industry is a specialty. We do tech installed data. We have social profiles, and we have things like, I think it's called MeBe-Weebie, which is the compliance classifications, like women-owned business and minority-owned business, things like that. So a lot of unique fields. Oh, I should have also mentioned the parent and then global ultimate parent. We have very well-developed family tree hierarchies. And so if you're looking to aggregate assets under one global parent, then that's one of the things we do quite a bit for lead to account mapping, or just to help companies really understand where their revenue is concentrated. And then the other thing I was going to mention really quickly is we do have a solution that identifies ICP. And it's a prepackaged solution where a customer can upload a list of their best customers, however they identify it. Let's just say it's the top 20% of their customers that pay them more money than anybody else. They can upload that list into Apex, which is the name of our solution. And once they hit submit, Apex comes back and it shows all of the common characteristics of those companies that were on the list. So you can see what are the industries that they're in, where are they located geographically, what's the size and number of employees that they have. And then you can hit one more button and Apex will return all of the prospects that look just like the ICP that you just determined. And to do that ICP, we are employing specialties that are a little bit more nuanced than what I described earlier. So we've built specialties around the way companies talk about themselves on their website. What are the key words? If you're GE Capital, you are in a lot of different businesses. So we couldn't just categorize that as one type of company. So these specialties are around types of insurance that the company might specialize in, or a specific type of engineering or something like that. And we use those specialties to then determine the lookalike prospects.
That's pretty amazing. So I got two more questions for you. One is around hierarchies, because it's very unique to see a company that has structure around business hierarchies. And is that something that you guys offer? And if so, does it have any unique? Is there anything unique about it?
Yeah, there is definitely something we offer. We have been building our own family tree hierarchies since 2005. And the reason that we wanted to build our own is that we felt like salespeople needed to know right when an acquisition was announced that something was happening. What we saw in the market prior to that were very formal hierarchies that might not actually show an acquisition till 6 months or a year later, when it's 100% finally approved and merged in with the parent company. And we felt like that's not that helpful. If you're out selling to companies, you need to know right away that there was M&A activity just announced. So we started building these, and what we're able to do, there are a few unique things about our family trees. One is, if you're looking for contacts, you can actually search for contacts by title or by level across the whole family tree. So not just looking at Nike, but every one of Nike's subsidiaries to find that head of digital transformation or whatever you're looking for. The second thing is we interact with CRM, both Dynamics and with Salesforce, to allow a user to import the whole family tree hierarchy into their CRM, so that you can then start to look at all of the accounts that should be grouped under one global account manager for territory alignment. So I could go on and on about our family trees. They're very sophisticated, and it's challenging because you have some trees that are based on brands, like Marriott Hotel, for example. There are lots and lots of Marriott hotels that license the brand Marriott, but they're not really part of the Marriott family hierarchy. We have to know all of those differences.
Yeah, that's a big problem to tackle, and there's only a handful of companies even trying it. So I am very interested to hear feedback on how that works and even try it myself. My last question, we're very thankful for having you today, is if I want to try InsideView or get some analysis done, do you have any sort of offering for analyzing data, analyzing ideal customer profiles, or even possibly testing a file or an API key or something like that. How do I, without much friction, get into your kind of funnel?
Yeah. It's pretty easy. Since you mentioned APIs, we have a free API trial. You just go to insideview.com/API, and you'll find the button to get started with an API trial. There's a lot of very simple and easy to read documentation that will also be linked to that API trial. And then also somebody, as soon as you sign up for the trial, somebody will reach out and give you a call and just see if you need any help, have any questions that need to be answered. With our products, we have similar trials. Almost every one of our products has a 30-day free trial. So you can just get started and you're accessing real data just to see if it's working for your particular situation. And then you mentioned also lists. We have what's called a data diagnostic. So if you reach out to us, and you can reach us at partners@insideview.com or sales@insideview.com, we will take a list and we can very, very quickly analyze that list and then return some summary statistics about how many records were we able to match, what's the fill rate, how many records could we correct or improve if we were to go through and do the analysis for you.
Well, that sounds like a lot of access. I remember a long time ago when I first started Salesforce, setting up Salesforce orgs about 11 years ago. I installed the free InsideView app so I could see, my reps could see how big companies were and make social connections, and they have a pretty cool freemium. And it didn't expire at the time, so it's like you get a lot of value from it. I think it's really unique to allow API access, for anybody who also uses RingLead. That actually connects directly into RingLead, so all the connectors are pre-built. And again, InsideView's team is amazing. They can help you build your own custom integrations as well. And then just generally, I think, for small, medium, large business, InsideView, it seems like it's got a very broad and detailed offering that, can do anything from analyze to help find and build or cleanse and work on hygiene. And we really appreciate you, giving us all this access to information today, Heidi, and joining us on the show. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, John. Anytime. We really appreciate our partnership with RingLead, and even though it's relatively new, just 5 or 6 months old, we're really excited about where we can take it together.
As are we. Have a wonderful day.
All right. Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.